Welcome to the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. Your adventure into the world of comic book movies starts here.
Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another adventure of the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. My name's Travis.
And I'm Patrick. We got a special guest with us today, Jonathan. Welcome.
Yo, no
What?
last name provided because
Nah.
I don't want you sons of bitches to know who I am.
You got to keep it incognito.
Yeah. That being said, I'm pretty sure Jonathan is at this point our most returning guest. I think you'd
Did I
have to.
finally win now.
Gotta be.
I think
Oh,
so.
sweet.
I think you've unseated Rory, I'm sure by now. So
Oh, yeah.
Well, you're welcome. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
I guess for having the most flexible schedule.
right.
Of
Always
last
being
minute.
yeah.
You want to record on a Thursday night? Sure.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we don't have like a jacket like Saturday Night Live for, so many hosts experience, but
Go put on your Highlander jacket. That'll make it official.
Just so everyone knows, I have a denim Highlander jacket.
Like a crew jacket from, well, probably something you'd get off the merch store, not a.
Something made for a much bigger man. Bigger is in wider, not
Yeah.
taller. It's a very short. It's got very short arms, but they're very big.
It's
voluminous.
the Sisterhood of the Quickening jacket.
Yes,
Because
yes.
it fits. Everyone's tried it on. Jonathan brought it to Indianapolis, or that's where he received it actually.
Yes,
and
I was
Oh.
given
We all tried it on, and
a fan of another podcast I do, the Swordboys. Saw it in a thrift shop. I was like, he's like, it's like $60. I go, show it to me. Show me the front and the back. I'm like, yeah, you need to buy that.
Yeah.
Just buy that for me and bring it to me. But I don't own any. Okay, I say I don't own any jackets for Star Trek. That's a freaking lie. I own a captain's. I would call it the captain's action jacket. The from the
Oh.
TV show that he wore when
Yeah.
he would he needed a jacket. I have a Star Trek uniform. I do have cosplay for Star Trek.
nice.
Funny enough, though, I am yellow. I am always in engineering because I'm like
Sure.
I'm the IT guy everywhere,
Mm.
like everywhere I go. So.
Yeah.
I would never be allowed to be command of anything.
Yeah.
So,
I really miss that about these later Trek movies. I like the colors, the gold, red, and blue, and I think these movies, everyone's in gray all the time, and it just, I don't know. I miss the.
so Travis, what you're saying is you like it when colors are put into different segmented groups.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Your blues, your yellows, your reds.
Yeah. Don't let them intermingle.
Mm-mm.
No.
Reds
Oh,
only.
this is off to a great start. All right.
This is the world that Gene Roddenberry wanted. He wanted a world of segregation.
That's right. And speaking,
Ugh.
yeah, so that brings us to the movie that we're here to discuss, Star Trek Insurrection.
Yep. A movie that I'm going to say it now, and I'm going to say it through the whole movie. If you can point out when the insurrection starts, that would be great, because at no point I went and looked. I'm like, do I not know what insurrection means? No, the writers don't know what insurrection means. At no point do I feel there's an insurrection happening.
Okay.
I feel there is some light. You may say, oh, when Captain Picard, goes against the Federation. I'm like, well, he's
Yeah.
not really going against the Federation. He's not going against the point of an insurrection is a violent upheaval against a government, not a 6 people going rogue on a planet that we'll talk about. We'll get there.
Yeah.
But I was just like, there's got to be another one word definition that would be better than insurrection for this movie.
Yeah, I looked through just scanned through the Wikipedia article for this and the production and everything, and I guess they went through a ton of titles, and then they finally kind of came to this one, and some of the other titles I think would have been somewhat better.
Well, yeah, I have, as your leading guest, I will say, I'll give my bona fides on this. I love Star Trek. I wasn't a huge TOS fan originally because it was only on in reruns when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I was all in for Next Generation and everything that's come since. So, and the movies didn't count. Like for some reason with TOS, all the movies I loved.
Yeah.
I don't love the first movie. That movie's slow as hell.
Sure.
But I love everything. So there's no gap in I watch Star Trek Prodigy. I like it all.
Okay.
Everything's different. It's one of the only series other than a couple of that live out there in the universe that's gone this many decades. So, and has actual, movies coming out all the time. And so it's when people are like, oh, Insurrection, don't remember that one being good. I'm like, well, it's not great, but I mean, it's 1998. Is it the best one in the 90s? No. Are there better ones? Yeah. Are there worse ones from this crew? Yeah. So it's hard to, this one's just kind of there for me.
Okay.
I'm saying up front, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Do you remember seeing it first time where you're just in theater?
Yeah, I was out of college. So this was because I remember I saw First Contact in college. I think I saw Generations in college. So I saw both of those. I was in college for 15 years. No,
Right.
I'm kidding. I think I saw Generations in college, and then I saw First Contact. I was like, holy shit, they finally figured out the formula.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's go. And then I went and saw this one and I went, oh no, they forgot the formula. So this one I did see in the theater.
Okay. Patrick, I think you and I, this is probably the first time. I'm assuming this was the first time watch for you.
How'd you guess?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've never. Yeah, I don't think I ever paid attention to Star Trek. So I think I do Captain Kirk version more than Picard. Picard I knew as a TV show, but never really even paid attention to the movies coming out because I was like, why are we watching a movie about a TV show kind of thing?
Yeah.
And oddly, that's kind of what this movie felt like, was a long TV episode. So
I would say you're right on the money there,
It has some payoffs for like people that if you only watch the show and then watched only Insurrection, you'd be like, oh yeah, okay.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't feel weird about any of the stuff in it. Like there's nothing in it that like, because in the last one, I mean, we don't talk about this, but Data has the emotion chip. It's embedded in him.
Right.
He can turn it off and on.
Yeah.
He doesn't. It's not even discussed in this movie. He has it. He has an emotion chip.
I thought they said didn't they leave it like
Picard
behind the
asks.
ship?
Yeah, Picard asks Geordi, like, could his emotion chip have failed, and that's why he's gone crazy? And Geordi says, no, he left it here. So,
which is hilarious.
It's like a pair of shoes.
He didn't pack it for this trip. So
I thought you wanted to be human. Being human means not being able to turn off your freaking because that happens in the first movie. In the first movie, remember he puts in Generations, he puts it in and
then freaks
goes
out.
Haywire.
Yeah.
In the second one, he's able to turn it off as they're about to go into battle, and he gets that great line of Data. Sometimes I envy you.
Yeah.
And then this one, he just forgot it. Oh, he's like there patting himself down. He's like, wait, these don't have pockets. Oh shit, I didn't. Oh,
I'll get one at the store. It's fine. Yeah. So I get so frustrated with the character of Data and how they choose to write him because if you watch the show, you learn like Data has emotions. He doesn't need the emotion chip. He becomes a more human character by the end of that series. And then the movies, it's like they constantly are rewriting him to suddenly like try to make him struggle with emotions all over again. Like we've seen this, we don't need to do this every.
He hated this character famously at this point. For this movie, for the last movie, he didn't want to do First Contact, but they literally said, this is all about you.
Yeah.
You get to have emotions. You get to basically be with the Borg Queen, like a really good movie.
Yeah.
So he did it. And then he got the script for this. He's like, ugh, I don't want to do these anymore. Just kill me off.
Right.
And then his girlfriend said, yeah, but everybody else has said yes. You don't want to be the guy that doesn't say yes because they'll haunt you forever.
Yeah.
So he's like, fine. He's like, kill me off. And then like Rick Berman or one of the guys is like, oh, nope, kill you next time.
Yeah,
He like gets him a script with like a note on it.
Kill you later.
Did.
Yeah.
Kill you later. Which is great. But it seems like each movie they had to kind of coax back Patrick Stewart and Brent Spiner, I think.
Yeah. Well, I read that, but with Brent Spiner's case, he was getting older, but his character is meant to be ageless. So it's like it's kind of getting tough to play this, immortal character.
Also, you've seen Brent Spiner. He has gray hair. He is older. He was older anyway on the show, so it's not like it's easy for him probably to keep in Data shape.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that later in Picard, in season 3 of Picard, they're just like, yeah, he's a little overweight because he's now a human.
Yeah,
like he's not really a robot anymore. He's just kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Can they just like reskin him like the Terminator? Like,
yeah, we'll just say that
older.
He's got living flesh, Yeah.
Help him feel more human-like.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's got dad bod all of a sudden.
Yeah. Makes the people who watch the movie feel better about themselves too. They're like, look, there's a character that's like me.
Yeah.
I will say otherwise, everybody in this movie is hot as shit. This movie, like everybody's in tip-top shape. This movie is, it's hard to explain like the premise of this movie. Like, is that like, how would you explain it to a non-Star Trek person, kind of like Patrick?
I would say a bunch of stretchy aliens want to rehome some space Amish. It's a movie where Picard has to fight against, one side wanting to drive these natives in quotes, from their land. And,
I wrote it down as a movie about colonialism and the exploitation of the native people, even though they technically weren't native people to that land.
I think that was the point.
Yeah.
And the Fountain of Youth.
Yeah.
So that was about it.
That's like saying, I'm going to get everyone to leave Boston, but no, we're native Bostonians. Well, calm down. You've been there, 200 years. It's not really like, you're not from there.
But I mean, if you think about it, though, what does native mean? Does that mean X number of generations that they've spent there?
Yeah. Star Trek native.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe that's the name of it.
Going native.
Like make it like a wacky comedy.
Yeah. So
it was already kind of it had some wackiness to it.
It's whoever called dibs first is native.
Yeah.
I think, so
yeah. Put your finger on your nose. You're like, oh, like my world.
I called dibs. I wanted to start off my notes like right before I hit play when I sat down to watch this. I wanted to write down everything that I knew about this movie, just as a test to myself of like, what do I get right? What am my what have I absorbed over my 40 years, and what ends up being accurate. So I'm going to run through this list of my pre-movie knowledge, and then we can we'll check back in.
You had not seen this until you watched it.
Correct. Yeah, this was the first time I'd seen this movie.
So this is what you absorbed through osmosis.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So we'll come back to this at the end and see how many I got right. So I start off, I said this stars F. Murray Abraham as the villain. Picard and Data drive around in a dune buggy.
Getting movies mixed up.
Maybe there's a Fountain of Youth element to the plot. And then maybe Deanna Troi and Riker, like maybe we see their wedding. And then maybe Lore is in this. Lore Patrick is Data's brother, clone, like his, for all intents and purposes, his brother.
He was first. He was the first one made, and he had the emotion chip, and he's evil.
Yeah.
He basically
he's his evil twin.
Speaking of which, he basically called a giant crystalline entity to come to the planet and kill all the people, and so he could. I don't know why. Yeah. No one knows why Lore is bad, but he's just bad.
That's his evil twin. If he doesn't have a goatee or a mustache, I'm gonna be very upset.
He did not have. He's not from another. Dang. He's not from another universe, Patrick.
Yeah,
get your shit together.
What are you talking about? The evil guy's always got a weird goatee.
Right, because they're from an evil universe where goatees are evil.
I'm thinking soap operas.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I was starting out. And then then once this like gets started and we see this quaint little village and everything, and then shit starts going crazy and phasers start getting fired. And then when we see Data is being chased, I think, okay, this is lore, and he is causing trouble to frame Data for or frame the Federation and cause trouble. And that's how this movie's going to start, So
I thought this was the insurrection that they were referring to.
And I like this part. Like this part, I'm like,
sure.
Oh, that's kind of a fun. They got these weird people walking around in beekeeper uniforms that are invisible. That's kind of cool.
Was a cool way to show it when you'd see like inside the duck blind, as they call it. You can see their screens and you can see where the people in these suits are visible. And I thought maybe they are like just out of phase, like they're doing something with the transporter to keep them almost in another plane, like physically in the same place, but not. But no, they're just wearing invisibility suits, and
that's kind of where the beginning of this movie's technology gap happens. You see that the Federation are with these other people. They're stretchy-faced man, and there's like this like reptilian triceratops people, and they're just kind of different people. And you're like, oh, what? Like, why are we working with these guys?
Yeah.
And I think this is the beginning of learning about the Sona, and the Sona have, I guess, much more advanced technology. Although this feels like a thing that they always do with Patrick. There is a prime directive that doesn't allow, if you haven't invented warp drive, the Federation is not allowed to talk to you because you could mess up their
natural progression.
Society.
Yeah.
So that's why they're there doing this. They do this probably on hundreds of planets. They've had episodes of the TV show where they've done this, where they basically hide and are learning more about them, almost like anthropologists. But yeah,
usually they'll like get prosthetics. They'll get themselves like cosmetically altered to look like the natives, and then they'll just try and blend in and just kind of like observe and take notes and try not to engage with them, but just kind of sit back and watch and observe and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Riker has had sex with some of the aliens though before, while he's been undercover. So that he famously is just like, I hope our genitals align, and then he goes at it. And she's like, no, my genitals are triangular. Oh, that's weird. Okay, well,
it was worth a shot, right?
I'll make it work. Riker is nothing if not accommodating.
Yeah. Just shave my beard and tell me I'm smooth.
Oh, God, that was the grossest part of this movie, I think.
Along with the face stretching. This planet in my notes I've called Planet Olive Garden, because for some reason it just kind of looks like an Olive Garden.
Yeah.
Like the inside.
It's like a Tuscany kind of.
They weren't going for that. Like they were going for like Burmese. Like they were going for a different look. But I was like, it's like Tuscan, like space Tuscany.
I think that's a good comparison. What struck me, and I don't know if it's just watching this movie for the first time with but my modern eyes, it's like there's no diversity on this planet, in this civilization. It's just white people. And then as you go through the movie, it's a movie about trying to kick a bunch of population off of their land, but you didn't include any diversity. It's like, were you trying not to, make it look like, were you trying not to be on the nose with, any people of color? I don't know. It was just weird to have this population where there were only white people, and then for it to go in the direction of kicking people off their land, it was like, I don't know what the right decision there would have been, but just either way,
it's 1998, and Star Trek is known for always having a diverse cast, and there's nobody, and you're like, eh.
But then, when you get to the Enterprise crew, and especially in the background actors, and then the Sona and the aliens that they're working with, they have a diverse crew. So it's like it is there, but I don't know. It for some reason it stood out to me this time, or going through it. So maybe I'm looking for that kind of stuff. I don't know, but it just stood out to me.
Yeah, I agree. Star Trek needs to always do better. Star Trek needs to always be the ones.
Yeah.
you've led the charge on so many things, and it's just like this movie. It's funny that this movie, it was bandied about so much. The writers, the producers, the people who worked on it, and just trying to figure out what it's going to be. And in doing so, they kept complaining they were stuck in what I'm calling, and I apologize to them for going blue, but they talked about Roddenberry's box. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. That is what they call it. Roddenberry created a long time ago a show Bible.
Yeah.
And it's the box. And inside that box lives Star Trek and the Federation. And there are rules to the Federation that you can't change. Yeah. And when he was alive, he would push back on writers and be like, this episode does not work. Like there's one famously, I watched a thing about it where there was an episode in like the 3rd season where this kid's mom dies on an away mission. And they were talking about grief. Yeah. And he made them change it because he goes, people don't grieve in the future. And that's not exactly right. That's not, I don't think he was going for that. But in this movie, they're doing the same thing. And I think they got further and further away from. Yeah. I mean, it was very, I guess it is in Roddenberry's box in that, we gave up our technology and now we're farmers and we know about stuff, but we just don't care.
Well, I think that all works. The stuff that I think breaks outside of the box is what the Federation's doing. And while I was watching it, I'm not a fan of when the Federation is, being run by idiots, and it's in these movies or in most of the later shows or, the next gen shows, it's always an admiral, and the admirals are always the worst. They always suck, and I know in this movie, the Federation isn't being represented really. It's really just this admiral, but
he's told them that the Sona have a way to help us. And there's an indigenous people who don't even have warp drive yet. And we can just relocate them at 600 people. Yeah. It's not a big deal. Right. And they're like, yeah, okay, sure. Which is so against the Federation. Mm-hmm. Federation wouldn't care if there's 6 people or a microbe.
Keep in mind, in Wrath of Khan, they could not do they weren't supposed to do the tests that they were doing on that planet if there was even a microbe of life on that planet. So
and they're trying again, Patrick. There's a lot of baggage coming into this movie because there is DS9. Deep Space Nine is a TV show that was going on during this.
Like Worf was on leave from DS9 to be in this movie.
DS9 is the TV show currently running while this movie's happening. And he's in the 4 movies, he always has to have an excuse to come back and hang out with this crew because this crew doesn't have very much to do on DS9. They do sometimes. They would show up, but
Geordi had just done an episode of Voyager.
Voyager was also out. This was at the point where Voyager started. They usually overlapped them by a year at least. So what they would do is they would have DS9 ending and for a year, and then they'd have Voyager starting up so that there was never a stop between Star Treks. Because at this point, there had not been an end of Star Trek since Next Generation started.
Yeah.
It was a continuous
87.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Since 1987, they've been doing shows, and then they went into DS9 a year before they ended the Next Generation. And then now I don't know how many seasons, because they were like 7. I believe every show except Enterprise got the correct 7. I think they call it the correct 7, whatever it is.
Oh, okay.
You get into syndication and it's just enough. They all have 7 except Enterprise. And
that's more complicated than the Marvel universe. At
this point, this was probably the most complicated universe.
Yeah.
Wow. I had no idea. I didn't have that baggage. I was in here completely ignorant.
Yeah. Like, even think about Star Wars. Star Wars at this point had 3 movies and then a bunch of books, comics and video games and stuff like that. But they didn't have
prequels hadn't even come out.
Right. So this probably was the biggest franchise, property around.
My biggest beef is the people who wrote this did not bring in some of the energy that at this point, Deep Space Nine was one of the best shows, I would say, on TV because its later seasons changed how TV was made. They stopped doing these, Strange New Worlds has gone back to this. Like every episode is at the end of the episode, you kind of wrap it up.
Right.
And everything's kind of episodic. Right.
Monster of the week, villain.
Now they play with that formula and do other things and have an overarching story. But Deep Space Nine had like a story that at this point was like 4 years in to a Dominion war. There's a war with these bad guys. It doesn't matter. And it was really complex. Well, they're making a movie and they're like, well, shit, we can't put the show in the movie because this is still the Generations. We're calling this kind of the Generations, group.
Yeah.
So they're like trying to come up with a story, and the story they come up with is just, well, it's funny that you kept mentioning some of the things you mentioned, Travis, are Nemesis plots.
Well, yeah,
because Rick Berman and the other guys that were writing this movie, half of the things they started with became Nemesis.
Okay.
They wanted a double. They wanted a lore, maybe in this movie. They wanted a secondary. They wanted a character maybe from Picard's past that had lived on that planet for 50 years and looked the same as he did when he was young. They went through a bunch of different crap, and what they ended up with was this weird group of people that don't talk loud. All the actors, all of the Baku just quietly talk, and it's just annoying as shit. And then they also have they're eternal, yet they can also slow down time. Stupid. There were so many dumb things added to this that I know part of it is from Patrick Stewart because he was the producer on this movie for the first time. And maybe don't let your star be a producer and give him the ability to change. I mean, he wasn't changing script stuff like Captain Kirk would, like Shatner would, but he didn't want there. He famously wanted Picard to be different than he was in the TV show. Mm-hmm. And he is in this movie. He's loving and
he's
does the mambo.
He's got some action, beats to it. And that started in First Contact. He got like the end of that movie is kind of him in a tight V-neck, doing an action scene. And this one kind of ends the same way. And he gets, I think a nice little romantic story throughout this movie. But he's shifting from the Picard of old, where Riker would go off and do all the sexy action star kind of stuff. But let's talk about I think we could skip over, it opens and Picard has to play the ambassador to these aliens that are coming on board. That's all whatever. I think.
Yeah, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
I could care less about all that.
I think like the first scene that really grabbed me was seeing Deanna Troi and Riker kind of being playful and flirty and like seeing that up front was for me really a treat.
And they're amazing. Their chemistry is so good.
Yeah, they get a few scenes in this that I think is really good.
Because Jonathan Frakes directed this.
Right.
She is amazing in it. And the fact that was put in the movie and stayed in the movie, I love them to being together. They weren't together. Patrick, didn't say she didn't know, they were together and then they weren't. At the end of the Next Generation, she and Worf were together. And then Worf kind of moved on and went to DS9 and married. It doesn't matter. And so they haven't been together in canonically in their universe probably in a decade.
Yeah,
like they haven't been an item. So they were an item originally. In the first episode when we meet them, they are ex-lovers. They had just been lovers.
And then they kept it flirty but professional throughout the series. But there was always an undercurrent of we love each other. We'll always love each other. That's not an issue. It's just we're just not, in a relationship right now throughout the show. So yeah, this
also
was
Riker
nice.
Was always slaying Tang.
Oh yeah,
on the show.
So is she.
Oh yeah, she had to have lots of sex. Everybody got to have lots of sex on the show, but not with each other. So when she makes the joke about kissing him and not having kissed him since he's had the beard, he grew the beard famously in the second season. And everyone says that's when the show got good. You can always see the second Jonathan Frakes grew the beard, the show was awesome. The first season of Generation is a hit or miss, but the second season is just bangers all the way. So
okay, I thought that just meant they dated when they were younger. I didn't realize that it was show related.
So when they
Okay.
shaved his beard in this movie, that's another. Literally in the movie theater, I think I gripped the arms of the seat. Like no, don't take it. Like, no,
it was jarring because when I first hit play, the title screen in iTunes shows the crew lined up and Riker without a beard, and I'm like, no, I don't like that.
I don't like what's happening here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I'm only familiar with the bearded version.
yeah.
And Geordi? Now I can't remember. I can't remember. Does Geordi have a beard in this movie, like a little beard?
No,
Or was this
not
before
really.
he grew his beard? Because he has a beard later on.
I don't
And
recall
he looks
seeing
good.
him in a beard. Yeah,
But yeah, this was again hit or miss on the storyline. But yeah, I agree. I love them flirting. I actually like the Baku at first because I'm like, this is kind of an interesting, fun. I don't know what their deal is, so I'm kind of like, okay, this is kind of a fun. Oh, they got stretchy face. Okay, they're like stapling his face together.
Yeah,
okay, can't wait to find out about this because I believe at this point one thing that was confusing. Here you go for more Star Trek news. One thing that was confusing was in Voyager they explain a disease called the phage. And what the phage does is it's basically an untreatable leprosy that takes away body parts. And I thought, these guys have the phage. Cool. We're going to do some like Voyager stuff. No, has nothing to do with it. Somehow this is keeping them young. I don't know how stretching your skin keeps you young. Maybe someone should go talk to some of the people in Hollywood who have stretched their skin.
Right.
They don't look young. They just look weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It made me think of I don't know if he's called the face, but the Doctor Who character that's basically just a giant face.
The face of Bo.
Yeah. It made me think of that when they were stretching out his face.
The other
scene.
Doctor Who thing it makes me think of is Cassandra, who's like the last human alive, and she's just a sheet of skin stretched between a frame.
Yeah.
Same thing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the face of Bo is actually a big head.
Yeah.
Whereas Cassandra, right. I think that's who you're thinking.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like a piece of parchment.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm drying out, lotion me.
She's like a kite with a face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whoa.
It's very gross. Well, I like they used a lot of the sets in this are from DS9 and from Voyager. The Voyager set where he's getting worked on and they later kills the admiral. They use that set a lot. That's got that stairway over on the right and they walk down into like a medical bay. That's usually used. I've seen it used for museums. I've seen it used for a bunch of things in Voyager. At this point, Paramount, has all these sets.
Yeah. And the Enterprise, I think they were using the Voyager bridge for this.
Yes, some of it was all, and also his bedroom is Janeway's ready room. So if you look closely enough and you like Star Trek, you're like, oh, I know this room. Yeah. So they just move stuff around. This was also the first time we should talk about that. This was the first time they ever had a fully CGI Enterprise.
Yeah, which blew my mind as I read that fact, because in my notes as I watched this movie, I kept noting how amazing the space battles look and how the ship flying through space. Like, I was convinced that this was all miniatures because it's like, I thought there's no way if they did this with CGI that they would have got the detail, like, because it looks like you're taking a big model and you're photographing it, and that's why you're getting all the detail and all the panels of the ship and everything that you don't usually get with CGI. Usually once you upgrade in quotes to CGI, usually everything gets smooth and gray.
Especially in '98, they didn't really have textures,
right?
And they weren't putting weathering because this is not like Star Wars where everything looks old and shitty,
right?
Everything in Star Trek does look nice.
But I did also read that they used CGI to make the ships, but they also used photos of models,
right,
to probably apply the skins of the ship. So
and then they
kind of like they're doing both.
They lost all of them. And they had to be rebuilt because you know how all these models are like giant, huge files that are made.
Yeah.
Whoever made them, the company that made them, they're the same people who, if you guys have watched Generations, they're the same ones who did the sequence with the champagne bottle hitting the ship.
Okay.
They don't do everything. Yeah, it's one of those things where you outsource to outsource, like the third guy down.
Yeah.
So these guys they had proprietary software. They invented this CGI ships and then they went under and no one saved the ships.
Oh man.
So to up-res these things and to get them like you know, 4K, they had to like redo them.
Gotcha.
Because if you look at them, the Sona ships are pretty cool looking.
Oh yeah.
They talked about these. They're all based on backyard games. So it's like lawn darts and horseshoes. If you go look at them all, they're all based on backyard. That's basically what the guy did. The guy who's in charge is like, I went outside in the backyard and thought about games that you play in the backyard, because he's like, those are weird shapes.
Yeah.
And then they made them into, you know, ships.
Sure. That's funny.
But other than the ships looking great, the rest of the effects in this movie are dog shit. The blue screen is dog shit.
Yeah.
All the stuff they do that's all CG is fine. But anytime they put real stuff, it looks so bad compared to the last movie. They look great. I felt like there was some budget stuff going on here where they're just like if that beginning scene when they're talking those little fart monsters, whatever those things were, they show the stars in the background, and and you're like, oh, this is bad. Like the stars look terrible. You can almost see the highlight of the green screen around the edges. It's so bad. I think I'm not real happy with most of the effects in this movie. The ship battles are great, but the rest of it looks like shit.
Yeah.
So speaking of ship battles, I think I may have spotted a Patrick Stewart with the singing karaoke attack that he has.
Yes.
On Data.
The HMS Pinafore?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a Patrick Stewart kind of thing? I feel like he's a singing kind of guy. But...
Oh, yeah. He's, Shakespearean.
Yeah.
He's a Shakespearean guy, trained in that way. And then he and Brett Spiner as Data, like on the show, they got a lot of singing kind of.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. Data more than Patrick Stewart, but he
did not want to do that. He actually, the actor Patrick Stewart did not want to do this song, but they thought it would go well with like the generations. Like they're always like, they're real big into the admiral, naval ships of the old. And they knew that Brett Spiner could sing it.
This was just weird to me.
Okay.
So I was not expecting a sing-along distraction thing,
I think,
or whatever that was.
Yeah. I wrote down that I think this only works because that these guys have spent a lot of time together. They've done similar things like this. Like this works for, if you've seen the show, if you spent the time with the show and the movies and the characters, like for me, this worked because this is something that Picard would do to get through to Data, like to try and get one of those memories of like, if I can get his attention with an old memory, that sort of thing, then I've got him. Then we can distract him long enough to do this little trick of like sneaking up on him.
It's funny when he makes Worf sing.
Yeah.
Worf doesn't know the words.
Yeah.
That's good. See, that kind of stuff's funny.
Yeah.
I kind of figured that's what it was, but to me, I was just like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do that a lot in the show. A lot of times they would always like Data was big on learning like how to play the violin.
Yeah.
And he was in quartets, and the ship always had some sort of very classical like stuff. Like there's always music and plays.
They put on concerts.
Holodeck. Because
they
would this is how they did like
there's no movies.
Yeah.
There are no movies, and only until Voyager do they actually watch television.
Right.
Only on Voyager have you ever even seen a TV show.
Yeah.
Weird.
Everything else before this is just like, we've kind of grown past that. So now we just do HMS Pinafore. It's like, well, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, we do concert recitals and, classical instruments
so they've grown past visual TV and movie media, but fall back to even older versions.
No, they now have holodecks where you can fuck somebody.
You can have your own entertainment. Yeah.
It's you don't need a TV show when you can literally be TJ Hooker and go out and be a cop.
Right.
Computer, make 21st century cop, and I want to do that.
I think they play with that really well in Deep Space Nine, because because Deep Space Nine takes place on a what was it called? A space station instead of a spaceship. So it's not traveling, it's stationary. And so you're it's like a spaceport, so you're constantly getting new people
and
coming
Quark's
in.
bar has hollow suites, which are basically like jack off rooms up in the top floor.
Slash, you can live out
Federation guys use it for normal stuff.
Yeah.
Like it was because one of the jokes of the show is you always see Miles O'Brien and the Doctor coming out of it, and they're like dressed like a fighter pilots from World War II. It's always something crazy. Like it was that you could have a show based on the shit those two did in those. But the joke is, I mean,
really, they were just fucking broads dressed up like fighter pilots.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe they were having sex with airplanes. I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever you want, man.
Had no idea Star Trek was this saucy.
Okay. Oh man.
Yep, Star Trek. Well, no one ever talks about like how they clean the. It is brought up if you ever want to watch a great show, watch Lower Decks.
Oh, sure.
Lower Decks does bring up like all the sex stuff that would happen, and that because Lower Decks is about people that are like ensigns, like lower, the lower echelon, and they like have to clean out the
trap.
Deck, and they're like, oh my god, the traps, they're just full of stuff. And,
So you don't want holodeck duty then, I guess, for cleanup.
No.
Okay.
I mean, they're holodecks in this movie. It's just they're used to the holodecks are used to like recreate planet.
Yeah, and fake trick people into getting them off this planet, which I thought was a
solid plan.
And I thought a really cool moment because I think it's it takes it. I thought it was a bold choice on Picard's part to he's going to investigate this whatever's going on the planet, get to the root of the problem, and he takes Data with him. And I thought it was weird because like these people were all just freaked out by Data, so to bring him along I thought was an odd choice,
but he's the only one who's been there, and something happened to him. The whole point of Data going crazy is you see the side of his neck, he's been shot, and it started some ethical subroutine that wouldn't allow him whatever he was doing was unethical, and so he stopped immediately and ran away. Basically he went back to his like default programming, which is he went to his three laws of robotics basically. So it's an I love now the stuff they saw in Sierra Nevada or Sierra Leone or wherever the hell they are. It's beautiful. All that stuff looks great. The bay looks great. I love the weird ship. And this is when we start to kind of learn, something freaky deaky's going on with this.
Yeah, when they find the holodeck ship, which is a cool concept because they'd never done something like this on the show. There was never a vessel like this that was just an ark that was just a holodeck, basically.
Did you see Riker in the background, like licking his lips and like starting to sweat because he's just so excited? There's a holodeck.
Oh my god!
That he can go in there. He's like, it's pristine. It's never been used. Oh my god! I'm gonna get in there.
How many women would this ship hold?
At least 600.
It's a holodeck. I can make as many women as I want.
But that's
600 at the very least.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
I do like how
the way holodecks work is weird. Like they make you think you're further away. Like you could be right next to somebody and not know it. It's a whole. Don't ask.
The spatial awareness and it's
okay.
Because it creates matter too. So like if you have a bridge, it's not like you feel like you're on a bridge. You're on a bridge. Yeah. It builds the bridge.
Interesting.
But I like this scene.
Yeah, because this is where we some layers or some covers are pulled back, or some things are revealed, and Picard instantly puts it together like, this is a holodeck ship. They want to move you, relocate everyone because I guess this planet has this healing, property. It essentially makes you. Yeah, it makes you immortal, basically. It regenerates you, all your illnesses. Geordi gets his eyesight back. All the crew starts getting younger, or not younger, but just, might take 10 years off of them. And they get a little bit more immature,
Worf. Was it his Worf? I thought, I didn't catch the youthful thing yet.
Okay.
I thought Klingons just had like either late or secondary puberty,
right?
Like I wasn't entirely comprehending what was going on yet.
Yeah.
That's where we're introduced to the gorge.
Yeah.
The gorge.
I wrote that down, the gorge. That sounds brutal.
Yeah. Which is a Klingon pimple. I mean, that's a great scene where he's like, can barely see it. And then Data's like, like Brent Spiner is one of the best things about Star Trek.
Yeah.
And I know he didn't really want to do this anymore, but he's so good at it. He's funny as shit in this movie, except for any of the stuff that he does with that kid. Gotta hate that kid. Please just murder that child in this movie. But they do not. They have to have this horrible story about him learning about, and again, this is what you're talking about, Travis.
Yeah.
Don't reset. He knows how to play and have fun.
We've done this with Data before.
Yeah.
Data is beyond this now.
Right.
We're at a point of like, he doesn't need to learn new shit.
Right.
If you want him to learn stuff, have him fall in love with somebody on the planet.
Yeah.
But instead, it's Picard. And Picard falls in love with what's her face from Dr. Octopus's wife.
That's what I wrote down too. Donna Murphy.
Yeah, Donna Murphy.
I wrote down, that's Dr. Octopus's lady.
She's told not to ever raise her voice.
Yeah.
In the entire movie.
Nope. She's playing Anij.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And so she goes with them to the holodeck ship, and then there's that little thing where she falls in the water and they've got to save her because she can't swim, but that leads to an interesting conversation later, which is fine.
And we learned that Data, in case of emergency, is a flotation device.
Yeah. That's whatever.
Does that mean his, what I was hoping is they'd shown it like his groin gets bigger, like it just kind of balloons up.
Probably a diaphragm situation.
What's inflating? His feet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Does he have little propellers in his feet? That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So I was consistently distracted in this movie once the reveal happened about the weird anomaly within the briar patch or whatever that's causing them to, I guess, conveniently not have communication. And also regenerate once you hit past puberty or something.
Yeah, the
kids still grow up.
Yeah.
Well, he said reach maturity, so that
maturity,
means
right.
I don't know what that means, but okay, sure. He's made up. This is all made up anyway. Who gives a shit? But it is confusing
because there's only 600 people. There seems like there should be way more than that, unless they started with 5 people and everyone's inbred.
Right.
Because they've been there a few hundred years, right?
Yeah. And there are children, so
yeah. I don't know. I was surprised there was only 600 people when I found out about the eternal youth. I thought there'd be some crazy population growth going on.
This goes back to the stakes. The stakes of this movie are very light, and with it only being 600 people, and what we find out later is that 100 of them rebelled. Or no, not 100. A number of them. I don't know how much. Yeah, rebelled 100 years ago, and I'm like, okay, cool. They rebelled, and then they left, and then I guess in 100 years they subjugated 2 entire races. And I was like, damn, that's a lot of work for 200 years after being, this is their Rumspringa. They left Amish town.
Yes.
I'm like, that's a lot of work. Again, this is where this movie's stakes minimize. I think they called it a paper tiger. They said the bad guys are paper tigers. That's been thrown around about this movie a lot. And I agree, because you're kind of like, well, I don't really know why you're so mad. You left, your butt hurt now because you're old.
You're falling apart. Yeah.
Just come back and live on the fucking other side of the planet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I kept thinking that the entire time. This planet is big enough for the 600 people. That's one of, I think, Star Trek and Star Wars, their big problems with planets is every single thing on the planet can be boiled down to this one village, that's it's still a planet. You could
Mos Eisley is Tatooine,
right? And so with this, I kept thinking, just move to the other side of the planet, establish your colony there, and you guys can live in peace.
They did talk about the fact that they can't because they're too far gone. They need all the radiation now, otherwise they would.
Yeah.
Okay.
My issue with that is. So that's the Admiral telling Picard, hey, we have to do what the Sona wants because we want their technology. And the Sona don't want to live on this planet. They want to take this natural resource from the planet and concentrate it to heal themselves. And I think the thing I struggled with is that the Federation's response to that would always be, it's not going to benefit you guys because you're too far gone, but you guys might be able to have kids and reproduce, and then your offspring will benefit. Like, that should be the Federation response, is live on this planet, on the far side of the planet, if you don't want to live next door to the Baku, but then establish your colony, and then eventually, like, it'll trickle down to your family. It's not going to help you, but it has to start somewhere.
But I guess at that point, then you'd have to say the Sona would have to give up their technology too, because you can't have a technologically superior race living on one side, and a bunch of pacifists on the other, because you're always going to take over for the pacifists. Anytime they want. Yeah, I don't think they did, because I don't think they have the numbers. I think this movie doesn't ever tell us. Right. I wish I knew that. I feel like there's like thousands of Sona, but there aren't, because it was only 100 years.
I don't know where they are, and I came around to that too. It's like, why, I kept coming to, like, this is the anti-Federation, storyline, because we learned the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And there's 600 people over here. And then we don't know how many Sona there are, but I doubt there's more than 600 that left this planet or got exiled from this planet. So it has to be a fewer number of Sona. So it's like, why are we siding with the smaller force? And it's like, just because their technology is greater. And so that's what makes the Federation seem like the bad guys. So that's
the pacifists go find a ship and stick them on it and push them out into space. I don't understand how the Sona got to where they got. Because again, they again took over these two other races, the Aloria, and I forget that. It doesn't matter. Yeah, the Triceratops people and the other people.
Not took them Klingons.
Over.
Yeah. I couldn't tell if they were originally like old enough when they got there to still have the knowledge, like some of the older elders on this planet do.
Yeah, but I think they are, because they're still. I mean, it's been 100 years, but these guys are still alive, because they remember them from the original uprising later on. Which makes sense. I don't know. It's vague. Again, this is bad writing. You should, in a Star Trek show, it unfortunately matters when you invent a race. I need to know how long. If you told me we've been here 6,000 years and 1,000 years ago they left, I'd be like, okay. And they built ships and they're pissed off and are coming back. I got it. Yeah. But instead, it's been 100 years. Okay. And one I love, can we please talk about the Sona ships? Not only the Sona ships, I love that they're old, because they're like 100 years old. I love that their chairs look like what an old lady's den looks like. Yes. All of their chairs are
the brocade.
like red, like velvety.
Yes.
It's the best. It's the
old
best.
Lady fabric.
Yeah, it's all old lady fabric. I'm like, of course it is, because they're old ladies. Yeah. They probably have a little dish of hard candies somewhere on that bridge. Yeah. You can just walk over and get them anytime you want, because their mouths get dry.
Yeah. F. Murray Abraham has a, he's wearing a cardigan, and the pockets are full of Werther's originals.
If you look in the Sona's fridge, there's a bunch of stuff that's already spoiled, but they won't get rid of it. No. Because they eat things that are disgusting. They're like, no, it's just 2 weeks past. It's fine. You're like, ah.
All of the Sona's board games are held together with the tops of pantyhose, like as rubber bands.
They're just boomers that running around, space boomers running around. They're just so mad.
Oh man,
I want the planet to go back the way it was before. Yeah.
Okay, looks like Geordi did have a little goatee action going on.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I remember.
I just came to the part where he's getting his ocular vision back or whatever. Yeah.
He was born blind, so I don't know that being on this planet would do anything but make his old blind eyes turn into young blind eyes. But fine. They needed some stake to, like, would you take this away from your, that's kind of like where they're going, is would you take this away from somebody? Yeah. You've given him this gift of sight, which I'm sure to him, he's like, oh, this sucks. I can only see in visible light.
Right.
Lame.
I'm used to infrared and
all these
Yeah,
different
all the
things I
different
could see.
spectrums. Yeah. That moment though, I that worked for me.
Yeah, I like
You
it. I
know,
like this.
Yeah.
Well, it's LeVar Burton acting, so
Yeah.
it's always going to be good. So yeah, I guess they're gonna try. So this is where we get to the point of, is this the insurrection?
That's
don't
what I
think so.
kept coming to
Yeah.
once Picard and the Admiral butted heads, and Picard, and that scene is amazing. You know, Picard is coming at him with, what is the number when, it doesn't matter. It's not 600. What is it? 1,000? Is it 50,000? And yeah, I think that might have been one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
Well, I love a good Picard monologue.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, and he just come off a great movie. First Contact has some of the best monologue ever from him.
Yeah.
So this is a good one, but it's again tapered with, he's not insurrecting because he's not trying to take over the Federation.
Yeah.
He's just defying the order of one guy who's an asshole. That's not insurrection. If you're at work and your boss tells you to do something and you say no because I don't think it's right, it's not an insurrection.
But I do think, like, in Star Trek terms, we don't often get a crew going rogue like this. I don't know if the next gen crew has done something like this.
Has gone rogue?
Like this. I mean, they've defied orders, but here, like, Picard he's loading up a shuttle or the captain's yacht with, a crate full of rifles and, other weapons and everything. And so, like, I've never seen that before,
He went rogue in the last movie. He was told not to go to Earth for the battle with the Borg. Because remember?
Yeah.
So
I think this is different because he's like literally taking up arms against the Federation. So,
but he's not. He's only taking it up against the Sona. I'm kind of like, and they're not. Again, it's a bad title. Guys, it's just a bad title.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's a bad title.
The fact that they couldn't come up with a title and ended up with Insurrection, it didn't start out as Star Trek Insurrection, then we know the insurrection part doesn't really matter.
No, it's just a way to remember this is not a great movie. This is an okay movie. It's just fine. It's not great. It's fine. All right, what part are we at now?
I mean, I would say all the crew going down to the planet. Picard sends Geordi and Riker to take the ship out of the nebula or whatever, into communications range so that they can contact Starfleet and say, this admiral is up to some shit with the Sona. This is what's going on. And meanwhile, Picard and the rest go down to the planet and start this like mass exodus, getting the people, from the village up to the mountains to the caves. I could have done with less of that. It's like, I've seen Two Towers. I've seen a mass exodus done really well. I don't need that in this. Just let's speed it up a little bit.
I don't need to see a bunch of whites in a row walking up into the California mountains.
Yeah,
I did like the little space Roombas that could zap them to the ship, though. That was kind of.
I like the little isolinear tags. Isolinear is a MacGuffin that is used a lot in Star Trek. They do a lot of things. So
space Roomba, whatever.
Yeah.
I love those. I love the little things. All the Sona stuff was cool. Like the collector. We didn't even talk about the dust collector. It's a very fun. Looks like
we haven't seen it at this point yet, have we?
Looks like Count Dooku's. Yeah, I think we have. Haven't we? We've seen it because what's his face? The leader, F. Murray Abraham. Space Murray Abraham has talked about it because he's shown it looks a lot like Count Dooku's.
It does. The solar sail. Yeah. We do get, as far as I know, Star Trek's first boob joke when Troy and Crusher, they're taking like everyone's taking a breather from this trek that they're on, and she says, "Have you noticed your boobs getting firmer?"
Oh yeah,
and
I forgot about
Crusher says like, "Not that sort of thing matters anymore," or something like that, and which is funny enough. But I love the payoff there when Data goes to Worf and says, "Have you noticed your boobs getting bigger or firmer?"
Which again goes back is Data's not a dumbass. He gets humor and he understands sarcasm and he understands. I don't get again. This is like season 1 Data.
Sure.
Ladies are saying something. Beep boop. I don't know how to talk to other people. And it's like, come on, man.
That's the big problem I had with Data. I think in Generations when they're on the old-timey ship and Worf gets knocked into the water and everyone laughs, and then he pushes Crusher into the water because he thinks, well, this will be funny. And that's, that's the same thing. Like Data would already understand, like he doesn't need to learn funny at that moment. He's already done that, Joe Piscopo taught him funny.
Joe Piscopo. I watched the old of Saint Piscopo. This is the patron saint of comedy. So this Data is the same Data. Let's think about him. He doesn't know how to talk to Worf, so he asks him about his breasts awkwardly, as opposed to the Data that went up on the ship, saw the Gorch and went, no, and knew the deadpan joke of it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And the same Data that after Riker says that his beard is as smooth as an android's bottom, and he touches it and then goes, that Data is the one I like. The Data on the planet's an idiot.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason those two should exist at the same time. Data gets humor and has been around. These are his best friends. He wouldn't be talking to Worf like this.
Yeah, I feel like the good Data moments is probably Brent Spiner because he knows the character. Yeah. He's choosing to ad-lib those moments versus the Data stuff that doesn't work is probably what's in the script.
I mean, if I was going to write that scene with him and Worf, I would have Worf say something and then him go, yeah, but what about that giant Gorch? And go, what? And he goes, nothing, and walk away. Like, just be like, like, keep talking about the Gorch, and then just look at it and look at him and walk away. Like, I didn't say anything. It just,
it needs to be that moment in Austin Powers when he pointing out the mole on Red Savage's face.
Yeah, just do something funny like that. This movie has a lot of beats that don't play. Like there's scenes with Anej. Donna Murphy, where Patrick Stewart acts as if he's never been in love before, or he's never like had this kind of dude. We know you've had these affairs before, like you know how this works. You're good at this stuff. You just don't care about this stuff.
Yeah. He's feeling like a teenager. His hormones are flared. He's getting peach fuzz on that chrome dome. I mean,
but here's the problem: canonically, when Picard was a young guy, he was an arrogant hothead.
Yeah.
That's where he got, originally he got in a bunch of fights and then got stabbed by some Nausicaan and he has a fake heart. He has a different heart in his body right now. But he was like an asshole. He's kind of like a brash know-it-all.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see that version.
Yeah. Tell me, just wait, that's in your next movie.
Oh, okay then.
You're gonna get all the stuff you want with young Picard in the next movie.
Yeah, because I thought Data was getting screwed up by the anomaly thing too at first, because I remembered him being a lot less immature. And
you think it's affecting his circuits and making him?
That's what I thought at first. I was like, something must be because he's so different than the last.
No, that's just the bad writing.
Yeah,
I didn't know if it was the chip that he left in his other pants, and I didn't know what was going on with him. So it's good to know that he was just written weird, I guess.
The movies just are inconsistent so far with Data.
Okay. Yeah.
And the next one's not awesome with Data either.
Okay.
Okay.
It takes I'm sorry to say, until Picard season 3.
Yeah.
Which to some people they don't like it because it's fan service. I'm like, yeah, but it's fan service of a character that we love.
Yes.
And these are characters we love, and you've written them the way they would react to things.
Yeah. You get Data in season 1 of Picard, and it's a nice send off. It's a nice thing. And he's not in season 2, I don't believe.
No.
But then, you're right. Like season 3 it's the fan service season, but it's okay. Give me more of that, please.
Because it's the people we love being the people we love, as opposed to at this point in their career, they're like, I don't want to be the Picard from TV. Okay.
Yeah.
You're not the first contact Picard. Why can't you continue to be that guy?
Right.
That guy was fucking awesome. That movie is badass. And he's mad. He's mad at what the Borg did to him and turned him into. And now he's just kind of like, I'm going to live in this long moment. And you're like, ugh. Like, ugh. And again, the story is so, just nothing. It's just nothing.
Yeah.
I needed more.
It's I enjoyed this movie because it did feel like an episode of Star Trek of Next Gen,
Yeah.
And that's what everything I kept reading was like, fans said, "Oh, it's just an episode of Star Trek," and I'm like, okay, that to me that's fine. And I had said this to Jonathan in our group chat that well, so is Star Trek Beyond, and it's praised for that. People like Star Trek Beyond because it's just an episode of old original series Star Trek. So,
but none of those characters act against type.
Sure.
And I think that's the thing. You're allowed to do an episode, a long episode.
Yeah.
If they were the same people that just came off of First Contact.
That's valid.
Like,
yeah. Cause that's my biggest problem with these next gen movies is the characters are so different, from mostly Data. I feel like they just can't figure out Data from movie to movie.
Because they're like, how do you keep this guy interesting? A guy who's trying to become more human. How do you make him interesting? Whereas Riker is a human. You're like, he's going to become a captain. That's his big thing in life. And he's going to marry Troy and they're going to have kids and that's going to be their life. And, that makes sense. Whereas when you look at Data's always been the problem.
Yeah.
And also, he's also one of the most talented people on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Other than Patrick Stewart, I feel. I think they're all talented, of course, but I think he's one of the most heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
He has to change who he is.
He's had the most range. He's gotten to do the most.
And that's why he came back for so many of these movies, because they were like, fine, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. The next movie, he gets to write it. It's one of those things where he just wanted to write. He and Picard write the movie. Okay. And there's some problems with it, but it's okay. It's fine. But it's not the send off. I think also the problem is the last TOS movie, The Undiscovered Country, is such an amazing send off.
Sure.
For that crew. Yeah. It's so perfect. Forget that Generations brings back Kirk. But it was such a great send off of the crew. And Nemesis is the same way. Nemesis is like the last movie. Whereas Picard season 3 is really the send off.
Sure.
Of this crew.
Yeah.
So I think they did a good job in Picard season 3. But again, this movie is, we're talking about something that was 30, 40 years later. We're dealing with time frames that are too long.
I think that's where, to jump back to the start of this movie, it felt weird seeing the crew in that opening, like 10 minutes or whatever. It's like, I feel like at this point, Riker should have his own ship by now. Most of them should be doing other things by now than just being this same crew. And like even the original series crew, like Sulu was off, on his own ship, I think by the sixth movie. And people were kind of going their separate ways by that point, Right.
And they were all commanders. They were all like high ups.
I feel like
that's been a problem with this entire thing, because Geordi's still monkeying around in the ship. You're kind of like, Geordi would be a captain at this point. But they usually don't make an
engineer.
They usually don't make him a captain. But actually, I say that was Scotty was he Captain Scotty by the commander, or was he commander by the time he got stuck in that buffer,
right,
and came back?
I don't think he was a captain. I think he was
commander maybe. But anyway, point is, so this is the point I want to do. I do want to talk about this. You love the space battles, you love those scenes. Mm-hmm. Do you love the Enterprise space joystick?
No, because I
did not either. I was very unhappy with that.
I think I'm okay with it in theory. I think they didn't execute it well, because Riker's like 6 foot something and he looks hunched over, standing with this.
It's in the middle. It's just in the middle of the ship.
Yeah.
Which I truthfully, I swear to God, I wanted it to show up as a wheel, like
an old-timey ship wheel.
That'd be weird, because if you're in a spaceship that can only go left and right, that's probably not the best.
Sure.
But when that joystick comes up, and it's like a 1998 joystick.
Sure.
It's
a Flight Commander, it was probably the top of the line joystick of that year for PC gaming.
It has a red button and it doesn't fire, because he does push that button when he goes forward. I'm like, what does that button do?
It's just thrusters, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, that's not how thrusters work. No, I don't like you just push that and just the thrusters go. No.
Hey man,
it works like that in video games.
You don't understand how this works. It's in the future.
I don't get it. So that I hated that. And then they'd barely use it because he's like, I'm gonna ram this down their throat. And then nothing happens.
Sure.
And the next thing we know, the
ships blow up. And that's the Riker maneuver.
Yeah. Well, I've seen the Riker maneuver. He's done it on a holodeck to a couple people.
Yeah.
You blow up all right.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of explosions involved in the Riker maneuver. The Riker maneuver is the way he sits in chairs.
Yes.
Everyone knows this. That's canon.
Yep.
Patrick, if you've never watched the show, the greatest thing that Jonathan Frakes as an actor ever did was he's so tall that when he comes in, the chairs are very low backed. So he always swings his leg over the chair like he's sitting down on a horse. And it's amazing.
He mounts the chairs. Yeah.
He mounts every chair he sits in, which is great. Yeah. When he did that, I remember the first time I saw it, like season 1 of Next Gen.
Yeah. He goes into 10 forward or something into the bar.
Everybody's like, holy shit, did you see that?
That was a choice.
He's presenting.
Riker always has his foot up on stuff. He's famously always at the
Captain Morgan pose.
Yeah, he's always got the Captain Morgan pose, but
it sounds like he's quite the stick man, so maybe he's just presenting.
Ironically, Picard is the stick man. Picard was the navigator of his old ships.
The Stargazer.
Riker is his like a career commander type thing. I forget if they've told us what. I know he had other things because remember that's where we meet he also had an evil twin.
Yeah.
But he wasn't a twin. He was basically an echo from a
transporter accident. Yeah.
He got stuck. He got transported away from a planet, but he also stayed on the planet. So for 5 years, he was Riker on the Enterprise, and for 5 years, he stayed on a planet by himself
and lived a life.
Bitter asshole. Yeah. He's like a bitter asshole with a lower rank.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
man.
Thomas Riker. Thomas Riker had a goatee, whereas Will Riker has a full beard.
You go.
Yeah.
There you go. But God, there's so much stuff.
There was a chunk of this movie that I felt like it could have been its own episode of a TV show, and in fact, it was like when they have like the cave-in situation. I've seen that episode with Picard and Crusher are in a cave-in situation. I've seen it on plenty of other shows. Like,
did you see her giving Aja the stink eye?
Yeah,
when she's laying there, kind of like, you used to fucking do that with me, Picard.
We used to get trapped in caves all the time.
There's a podcast I listen to. If you're not listening to it, go listen to it. It's called The Greatest Generation. It's one of the funniest. It's a bunch of assholes, 2 assholes talking about Star Trek. It's amazing. It's hilarious. They say dick and fart jokes. It's like their thing. But they call them Star Trek caves.
Yeah.
That's how I think of them. This is what these are. It's the same 6 caves on the lot, and they like just redress them each time.
Spray some new foam on this wall. Yeah.
These are Star Trek caves. Yeah. I've seen that a million times. I was like, boo.
Yeah. So that I could have done without that. And that's that's when in my notes, that's when I first saw the solar sail ship thing that George Lucas stole from this movie to make Count Dooku's ship in Attack of the Clones.
Hey, everything I made up for those movies is from my own mind. I did not. I didn't rip anybody off. What are you talking about?
That was pretty good.
I've never even seen Star Trek. What is it? Star Trek? That's weird.
Picard has another good moment with they're captured and he gets to go. He's up in the ship. I'm not sure where he's at exactly.
He's in the horseshoe, I think. Is he in the horseshoe ship?
Yeah. Is it the lawn dart or the horseshoe?
Yeah.
But yeah, he's talking to the Sona like number 2 and convinces him like, hey, you don't want to do this, this genocide basically that they're about to do. Like he gets that guy, on his side, and then they pull off this nice little bait and switch where the lights go kind of wonky for a second, and then the bad guy goes about his orders, and then he slowly realizes that we got transported somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And they're on that holodeck ship. And I think that was a beautiful like use of kind of bringing that ship idea back. So
and for you Gilmore Girls fans, his Space Murray Abraham's best friend is played by
Greg
Logan
Henry?
Huntsberger's dad, Mitchum Huntsberger. So
Yeah.
if you're a big Gilmore Girls fan, he is underneath that makeup.
Yeah. For all the twihards out there, the little boy in this movie is the little cuck kid that wants to get with Bella in the first Twilight movie. He's like the I don't know.
He's the funny friend. He's
the funny friend.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The one thing we didn't talk about was the rubber masks, and again, this is what the Greatest Generation calls it, which is the greatest name for it, loaf. All the Star Trek aliens have loaf of different kinds on their heads.
Yeah,
and the loaf in this is awesome. Yeah, it's Michael Westmore.
Yeah.
It's usually on the bridge of their nose.
Yeah,
and forehead. That's right. That's kind of the point. They were just like, it's just easier and cheaper.
Yeah,
but this is Michael Westmore. He did all the Star Trek movies. He did all the Rocky movies. He did all the Rambo movies. Like he's
good with like facial prosthetics and mostly.
Yeah, he basically he does good loaf. So he put a bunch of good loaf. All these at no point do I go, ooh, this looks dumb. Like all the
it's fine.
Practical effects are good. Of course the Sona's carpet and amazing chairs are the best. The one on the bridge is the best because it's like a fucking love seat
sofa.
It's so big. It'd be great if like does his friend sit next to him? Like how many people sit on this thing?
Yeah,
it's great. It's very nice. It's like a big comfy couch, which I love for Meemaw and Peepaw.
Yeah.
So they
price is not wrapped in plastic to keep the
good point.
Keep it nice.
And a little lace.
So, you mentioned it before, but this is kind of where the admiral gets, he gets betrayed by the Sona leader and gets, put into that chair and gets his face like distorted or whatever, causing death. And it's like, this is Anthony Zerbe, who I initially knew as, I think his name is Teaspoon in the Young Riders TV show, which was like a show about like the Pony Express in the show was in the 90s, but it's kind of like
great face.
Yeah.
One of those guys. If you saw him, you'd be like, oh, I know that guy. He's that guy.
To me, he's always that guy. But then I remembered when he got put in this chair, like, oh yeah, he has this same kind of death in the Bond movie License to Kill.
Yeah.
He gets put by the villain like into a microwave basically, and his head explodes.
Yep.
And that's kind of what happens here.
It's not a microwave. It's a his ship's submersible. It's like a
that's right.
Pressure. It's like a pressure thing.
Pressure thing. Yeah.
He's one of those guys. But he's great. He's great in this. He actually tried out for Space Murray Abraham's part, but was given this one. It's always funny the way I love the costumes, but they never really know what to do with admirals because they're always like, maybe we give them a belt. Like keep him in the same uniform, but give him a belt. Because that belt is very reminiscent of the Kirk belt that he used to wear.
Okay.
When Kirk was an admiral.
Yeah.
And also that was just kind of remember they had like the big billowy pants at the bottom.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like the Star Trek 2, 3, and 4. That was kind of their outfit. So it's those are nice little callbacks. But he looks awesome in this movie. But he gets killed dead.
Oh yeah.
Good.
So procedural question here. Seems they only have face stretching technology. So underneath those clothes, is it just a baggy mess of flesh? Like it's not a whole body.
It's all hermetically sealed from the neck down. It's just a bag. They're just a bag of goo.
Just a thought. I was like, why do they just have a face stretcher? Should there be like a whole body thing?
Another procedural thing. Is this their flesh or other people's
flesh?
That could be. Why I kept going to the phage, because the phage, the people that have that are like covered in other people's parts.
Right.
That's kind of the.
What was it? Early on, they show like his face peeled away almost.
Yeah.
And they're placing new skin on almost.
Right.
I feel like they were just adding layers, like constantly on top of the old or something like that. Yeah.
But only the face.
If you're not going to watch this movie and you're just listening to the podcast, think of Spanka Kopana. the Greek dish, which is just thin layers of phyllo dough. That's basically what these bad guys are. They're thin layers of phyllo dough. It's just disgusting. And we'll crack at a moment and anything will burst out. You never know.
Well, he does get angry, and then like his little jelly filling starts
Yeah.
oozing out of his forehead.
Oh God. Oh yeah. Same thing happens at every Greek restaurant I'm at. I go to eat it. I'm like, there's something wrong with this. This meal is angry. But yeah, they're gross. But I do enjoy F. Murray in this role. He does a really fun scream when he finds out they're on this ship.
Yeah.
He's like, cat scream. It's pretty great.
I think I just wrote down sad con.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't care for F. Murray Abraham that much anyways. He's great
not
in
as a
Amadeus.
human now. He's not a great human, but
I like him in Amadeus. I don't know that I cared for him. I mean, he was good in the season of what's that video Apple TV video game show. What was that called? With Mac.
With, Rob McElhenney.
Yeah. Anyways, he was good in that show, but in this, I didn't care about this villain. I wasn't particularly like impressed by anything he did, or I read that he liked doing this role because he got to be a scenery chewing villain and he enjoyed it. So I mean that comes through. Yeah.
Speaking of things or people I didn't enjoy. Jerry Goldsmith's score for this is probably one of the weakest of his Star Trek movies.
Okay.
And whereas I think he's fantastic. I mean, he's one of the best ever. And this feels like a just take some of the themes you had from the other movies and
that's kind of his thing.
They do. But he does it like this movie doesn't have its own. There's no music from Insurrection that I would say that's the Insurrection music.
Okay.
Whereas the First Contact has its own, that Borg cue.
I don't know. I think he's got the Baku village has a theme, and then that kind of goes.
It sounds like Olive Garden background music.
Yeah. But that comes throughout a lot of this movie. Oddly, the score for this movie I'm pretty familiar with because I just have in my library, I just have all of the Star Trek music. So I've listened to this score, because it is in my score playlist. So I've heard this score many times, on shuffle. So it was like when it started playing, I was like, oh, I know this music because I've heard it so many times. But now I've got the context of the actual movie. I experienced the same thing with First Contact, and I'll experience the same thing with Nemesis. So
the only thing I will say that was enlightened and very smart of Jerry Goldsmith, they wrote about this. If you listen closely, the Baku theme and the Sona theme is the same thing.
Oh, it is
one's written evil, one's written nice, so that you would be like kind of like, they're the same people. I was like, that's very inside baseball. Like no normal person's going to notice that. But I like that he did it.
John Williams did that with Anakin, with a lot of the Star Wars stuff. It's like the Emperor's theme is it's used in like Phantom Menace, but it's like inverted. So it's like cheerful and happy. But then when you hear it for the Emperor, in the older movies, it's like now it's dark and, brooding, something like that.
Right. Like the fanfare for Star Wars is actually Yub Nub backwards.
Yub Nub.
I show my age. I love Yub Nub. Don't you ever talk bad about it.
Yeah, I hate Yub Nub, and I like the
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The song in the special edition,
the end of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
The Ewoks play a song, and in the special edition, they play a different song.
It's a beautiful instrumental
good God.
score, and instead of a bunch of teddy bears singing Yub Nub.
Singing Yub Nub. Yub Nub.
Where are we? Picard gets a little action ending. He's on the lawn dart, and he's gonna self-destruct it. And I really, really dig the way that he's willing to go down with this ship because he doesn't really know that the Enterprise is gonna swoop in and get him out of there in time. He's willing to blow himself up along with this to make sure this plan doesn't succeed. So
a lot of people don't like that the background is blue. Like, it's just a giant bunch of blue screens. And if you go look on the internet, someone who's a genius has gone out there and during this scene has just put shit on the blue screens. So there's just like flowers and dog fights and all this weird shit happening in the background during the scene because it's just a bunch of blue screens behind you. And they were like, that feels like a budget thing. Cause this was written in a different way. And there were a lot of scenes that were cut. Yeah. One of the scenes that was cut is that famously F. Murray Abraham, when he dies originally, he falls out of the spaceship.
Oh, yeah.
And is hit by all the particles and actually de-ages, and they shot that.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the movie, the test audience is like, is he dead? Like, we need him to be dead. Like, it doesn't.
They should have de-aged him until he like turns into a baby and then becomes nothing. Like,
but instead,
now
they have him just in there, and then you could have him de-age. It'd be fun if he de-aged a little bit on that ship.
Yeah.
And then he blows up. Why can't you burn a baby, you cowards? Just blow up a baby.
Blow up a baby.
Blow up that baby.
And instead, they do what they did, and they're Picard. Picard extends his hand to help him. He's trying to help. At the end, of course, it's always Picard being the better person.
Sure.
But he's gonna die there, and then perfect Star Trek style. I do like the ship flying the length of the collector and picking him up.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It made the collector a lot bigger than I expected it to be. I had
had
no frame
smaller.
Of reference for how big this thing was.
Yeah.
So
because they hadn't put a banana next to it, so
exactly.
I had no idea how big the collector was.
But what is it next to a wine bottle?
Well, you got to put it next to a wine bottle.
Yeah.
That's why at the generations when that champagne bottle hits the ship, you're like, holy shit, that ship's huge.
At this point, it cuts to Baku and everyone's kind of getting their little wrap ups, and Data is having his moment with the kid. And I wrote down that it's just the Data and Artie, it's just a PG rated Terminator and John Connor story. Like
it is.
You kind of just want Data to fall into the lake with his thumb up, And the guy who abandoned the Sona kind of plan and helped out Picard, he gets reunited with his mother, which is nice. It's fine, but it's kind of like,
still gonna die. He's still gonna die.
Yeah. And then we find out Picard's got a bunch of vacation time, saved up. So he's gonna come back and teach this lady how to swim,
if you know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
We've still got that. I don't know why he sounds like this. For some reason,
Sean Connery
sounds kind of like Sean Connery. That we've still got that ship up there that does all the holograms, so we can go freaky deaky if we want.
Riker's gonna want to watch.
Yeah, he always does. And then, did you read about one of the other most famous deleted scenes?
Oh yeah, Quark and Max Groden chick get a scene or something.
Yeah, at some point, just so you know, Patrick, there's a guy named Quark, played by Armin Sherman. He is a Ferengi, this big-eared race. He lives on DS9. He's kind of a conniving guy. Anyway,
he's always got a scheme. He's always trying to make money, whatever.
He shows up on the Baku planet at the end of the movie wearing a swimsuit. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah. If you go look up Quark in a bathing suit, it's from this movie.
Okay.
They didn't shoot. Someone says they're like, I don't think they shot it, but he was wearing the costume with the makeup. So they got him to set.
Wow.
So I don't know where those scenes are, but he had down there because he wanted to create
franchise,
turn this into like a timeshare, basically.
Yeah. That's right.
Like who doesn't want to go to a planet where you don't age and if anything, you feel better?
I mean, honestly, what the Federation should do is, set up a health spa on one side of this planet. People can come down here, have a resting and relaxing spa weekend. I mean,
and get your eye. All the blind people that work at Starfleet can go there, and you can take Captain Pike there with his melty face in his beeping chair.
There you
and
go.
Him finally be back to normal.
Oh, Captain Pike. He's long since dead.
I don't think the Klingons would enjoy it if they have Gorches flying out every which way.
True.
Well, but canonically, Klingons have two penises, so I think they're doing pretty good already.
Man, I'm learning so much on this episode.
Yeah, well, you're gonna...
Holodeck's more than just a VR room, and
so I can't remember how Geordi is in Picard, and I obviously haven't seen Nemesis. So, are Geordi's eyes good from here on out?
No.
Okay,
They're back. They're back to.
Okay.
He went from Patrick in the TV show. You probably saw it. He used to wear a visor.
Yeah.
By the time they got to First Contact, I think he wore the visor in the first movie, but in the second movie, he has contacts in that look like electronics, like has robot eyes.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought he got like implants.
No, he still
like,
has
new
the
eyes.
same thing. He just has them. There's again, technology has gotten better, so he wears these robot because the visor canonically gives him headaches. Like it's
painful to wear, but it's the only way.
It's too much
see.
information.
Yeah.
It's too much information going into his brain.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Because he's seeing all these different wavelengths. But
yeah.
Okay. Anyway, it is what it is. No, he's screwed. He's gonna get back to the ship and be like, my eyes.
Okay.
So yeah. No, everybody's in deep shit.
Yeah.
Everybody who's been waiting in the Enterprise are like, I feel really good for the first time in my life. We're leaving? God damn it.
Oh shit.
Just hear all the bosoms deflate.
Oh, he just
oh man.
So yeah, and they end it with like a got your nose joke where
that works, I think, for me with the Data getting Riker like that. That's fine.
But then they drive off into the sunset, and that's the end of the movie. And that's when at the end of the movie, I kind of went, well, shit. Like I kind of thought there'd be more.
Yeah.
And there wasn't. And that was the movie.
Yeah.
So now that you've both seen it for the first time, would you recommend this to anybody, whoever you know? Would you recommend this in any way? Like I wouldn't ever recommend this. Like if someone's like, I'm kind of interested in Star Trek, I would never say insurrection.
Yeah. No, I would say if you haven't watched the series, don't watch this movie. I think you could probably I don't know. I think I would be I watched Generations without ever having seen the show, and I dig that movie. But then I don't know that I'd recommend any of the other ones because I think it does require, some knowledge of the show.
Yeah. Like I think the only thing that it does for me is it cemented until Nemesis. It cemented there is a thing, Patrick, where every even movie of Star Trek is great.
Oh yeah.
And every odd movie sucks. And it's true. 1, 3, 5, and 7 and 9 kind of suck. And 2, 4, 6, and 8 are pretty great. So it's just it worked until Nemesis. Nemesis screwed up the whole thing. I find Nemesis very weak. And it's kind of the way we say goodbye to the Generations for a while. It was like 2002. So this was right before, because the reboot was 6 years later? 2009, I believe. Yeah. So 7 years later. So it was the end of
this
at that point,
generation.
Right. Because Generations was over. DS9 had already gone off the air. Voyager had already gone off the air.
Yeah.
And Enterprise only got the short run that it did.
Yeah.
So everyone kind of soured. This is the dark times.
Right.
When it was like 7 years of just no Star Trek. And everybody's like, oh. Now we're back. We're kind of in a heyday again of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Not movies. The movies may be coming back. Yeah. But
there's so much good
TV shows.
Trek on TV now.
Yeah. Wonderful Trek, amazing Trek, like really good show, like shows that you'd like watch as a normal. You could come in and watch. Disco, maybe not. Discovery, that I call it Disco. That one's a little hard, but like Strange New Worlds, you could come in and not know anything about Star Trek and enjoy the shit out of it.
Yeah, I think Discovery, it gets really good. I think the first season is like first season of Next Gen. It's like it's okay, but if you stick with it,
second season's amazing.
Second season gets real good. Yeah,
because Pike's in it.
Yeah.
And then third season's good, and then fourth season's a little for lack of a better term, if you've never seen these series, Discovery is probably the most feelings-based show. Like it's the most about interpersonal
relationships and relationships. Yeah, you're right.
And it's like, and they have a trans character, which is great, but they don't write it always the greatest. So it's not the most interesting storyline.
Yeah.
And so it is doing probably the most heavy lifting, but it's not always the best. But I mean, it's a great premise. Once I'm not going to spoil it for you, but once they go to a specific place, they kind of changes. I'm like, I'm all in for this show. Disco preaches a little too much, but I like the actors. And also it's shot. It looks great. They spent a ton of money on it. It doesn't look cheap. I think that goes a long way. So we're back in a golden age of TV Trek.
Yeah.
Which is really great. But not at this time. At this time, we were kind of like winding down on this generation, the next generation. Because at this point, they've been doing this for 15 plus, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Themselves. And they weren't the original cast.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Because this one didn't hit me. I like First Contact better than I like this movie.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the best Star Treks ever.
And not knowing much about I can't say lore because there's a character named Lore apparently, but not knowing all the background information, I could still watch First Contact. Whereas this one, I felt like I was missing a lot of like some of the inside jokes you guys were talking about, and nods. Like I didn't know like history between characters or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay, but it's on a curse. This movie is very light on that kind of stuff, so it's really not going to kill you.
Yeah.
At this point, so that's a good question. Since you guys haven't seen Nemesis, have you guys seen? You guys have seen all the new movies, though, right? 2009 stuff.
I have, yeah.
Okay.
I've seen the first one.
You've seen all the Star Treks up to this one, right? Because that's for the show.
Correct.
Yeah.
What is your favorite Star Trek movie? Not being as probably weighted down as I am by memories. I've seen every one of these except the first one in theater. So what?
Mine's easy. That's probably Wrath of Khan. I enjoyed that one the most.
It's fun. It's so great that one still holds up.
Yeah.
As one of the best, even though like to me, I'm like, I judge it kind of like, okay, yeah, of course it's the best to me, because at that point no one had ever done that.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit, this is amazing.
Yeah. It's just so intense. I don't know. I like the performances, even though they can be campy. Shatner.
I think six is my favorite. Like just as a movie, but 2 is still my favorite. Like Wrath of Khan is my favorite, even though I know 6 is the perfect send off for this cast, and it hits every note that it needs to and moves the story forward.
Yeah, 6 was the first one I remember watching as like a new Star Trek movie. I didn't see it in theater, but it was like we rented it when it was like brand new. And so, but at that point I had seen Star Trek 4, and because it was always on TV on a channel 4 on a Sunday, you could always see Star Trek 4. So I'd seen that one a few times, but 6 was like the first new movie. And so that one I have a lot of nostalgia for. Same with Generations. Like I saw Generations for the first time as a kid at my grandparents' house. And then I just saw that one several times. So it was like, that was part of my, childhood kind of. And so that one has a special place in my heart. But like now, I've fallen in love with Wrath of Khan. Like I've seen that one in theater now twice. And one of those was with the William Shatner doing the in-person like Q&A like after the movie. So that was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I saw it when I was 8. I still remember because my mom got it. She got a fender bender and we couldn't go to the first showing. We're in a small town, so you have to wait like 6 hours before the next freaking showing of the movie. And we were like not in the town. We were like drove to go see it. She backed into somebody and then we had to wait while that was done. And then I'm missing the movie. And I was stoked to see it.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I guess I had seen, my parents probably showed me the first one, but I know I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But
that'd be a boring watch for a kid.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's awful. It's boring for an adult. But the second one I loved it. And then I remember when Generations went off the air. I was a freshman in college. My roommate and I had a giant TV in our room, and we all sat around, a bunch of friends, and watched the Generation end. So all of these like touchstones with Star Trek have been through my entire life.
Yeah,
I came my wife on Mother's Day to see 2009 because that's when second week it was out was Mother's Day. And I go, hey, I got an idea for Mother's Day. I'm taking you to see Star Trek.
It's got Chris Pine in it.
She loved it. So,
and that 2009 Trek, that's up there for me. I love that movie. I remember seeing that in theater a few times.
That's the best J.J. Abrams
blown
movie,
away. Yeah.
See,
that
I've
one's
seen
great.
I've seen that, but I honestly could not tell you much about it.
Okay.
But Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
it stuck with me.
Best music. I mean, some of the best music is in that
Yes.
2009 one. I'm just like, holy shit, this is the greatest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as you guys are going through this, it's fun to watch. You're kind of, unfortunately, you're in the dip of the
Yeah, I mean, we've got
amazingness.
one more Trek movie.
And then because then you're not going to do the new ones, right?
No, we will. I guess I mean for a while.
Right, in alphabet, in what chronological order?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you're unfortunately at the end of the Roman Empire. You're in that last 100 years when it's just like, well, it's not great, but it is the Roman Empire. That's how we are all like, no, it's still Star Trek, but it's not great. It's not great Star Trek, but at least we get something. I'm trying to think what we're in. We're in the secret invasion of the Star Trek universe. We're all kind of like, I guess we made something.
A little bit of fatigue.
Yeah, you're kind of like, okay. Because at this point, I mean, it's what, 98, they'd only been off the air for like 4 years.
Yeah.
So they did 2 movies in 4 years.
So what we got, isn't Galaxy Quest coming up soon?
That'll be, is that 99 or 2000?
Yeah, I can't remember. It's one of
I
the
think
two.
it's in the 90s, isn't it?
It might be 99. Yep.
Okay.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
I knew it was around this time, but I liked Galaxy Quest.
So that'll be great.
I know that's Star Trek adjacent.
Oh yeah, that's
whatever. Yeah, it's a good non-Star Trek movie, like for like non-Star Trek fan movie. Like it was open to more than just Star Trek fans. I guess.
Yeah.
Because I enjoyed it when I saw it. So,
but it definitely put into light the same thing we're dealing with now.
Yeah,
you're like, I don't get all the inside jokes.
Yeah,
I mean, that's part of the problem with Star Wars and Star Trek is there's just such a large amount of canon. That's why J.J. Abrams is like, just make it an alternate reality. I can't, like, we can't keep dealing with this. The Star Trek's even worse than Star Wars on some stuff.
I think the way he did that is beautiful. To it doesn't erase anything that happened in the long running Star Trek timeline. It just says at this moment we shift into an alternate, future, and everything going forward is now different. And I love the way that they did that.
Yeah. They even mentioned it on Discovery because they, when there's a certain point where there is some future talk and they talk about Spock, and she learns when he disappeared, and that's he disappeared to go into the Kelvin universe to do those movies, which is a great, it's not like he died. He never dies in the original, in the actual timeline. He doesn't die. He just goes missing, presumed dead,
and dies in the JJ universe,
JJ Abrams universe.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you're kind of like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of people that won't die, isn't William Shatner like 94?
Yeah,
96?
he
looks great. I mean, he's never looked good in the past 20 years, but he looks as good as he did 20 years ago.
Yeah, he keeps getting those face stretching, procedures. And,
if you go to his house, he's got a bunch of Sona couches sitting around.
Yeah. Funny enough, Shatner to me is the host of Rescue 911 more than Star Trek.
Yeah,
that's for a lot of people. That was their.
That's where I would have first kind of, contemporary with like watching those movies, 4 and 6. Like I would have been like, oh, this is the guy from those movies. But oh man, let's do most heroic and most villainous. Let's start with most heroic.
I believe there's a hero in all of us.
I just finally know what I have to do.
That keeps us honest.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
Gives us strength.
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards.
Makes us noble.
And I know in my heart that it's right.
Mine is that moment with Picard versus the Admiral when he just kind of tells him off and challenges him of like, what is, when is this okay? Or like what number makes this okay?
Mine is the entire crew sussing out that Picard is going to go rogue. And they all stand there and are like, we knew what was going on. There's usually not this much energy draining down here during this. Nothing's being, they knew what he was doing. And they all don't care.
Yeah.
They've all, if you notice, they've all taken off their comm badges, which is usually the sign that you're going rogue. So yeah, I that's my heroic for them as a crew.
Patrick, what do you got?
Let's see. It's basically the end there where he's self-destructing the ship, and he kind of there's a shot where he like turns and looks at him, and his smugness is evident along with his heroic moment. But that just struck me as like almost like the hero pose / self-sacrifice kind of moment. So
Picard loves blowing up a ship, and the last one he kept trying to blow up the ship so they could go to the what were the name of the islands they were going to?
The
Gravet Island, where they're going to live out their life. Yeah, he loves blowing up a ship.
Good to know.
Let's see. Most villainous.
This planet, these people, they are nothing to me.
You were made to be ruled.
The universe's power. You unstoppable power. Come to me, son of Jor-El. Kneel before Zod. And I am that force. I am that power.
In the end, you will always kneel.
Kneel before your master.
When Space Murray Abraham's jelly comes out of his face when he's screaming, and he's like, and everybody's just kind of like everybody around him's like, oh god.
Yeah,
I'm sure Picard's like, you're in my ready room. That's my carpet. That doesn't just come out. Everything's carpeted in the future. Didn't you know this?
I think mine is actually, it's just the reverse of my most heroic. It's the Admiral going against Picard there and trying to justify what what is his name?
Ruafo.
Yeah, he's trying to justify, everything.
Ruafo.
And to me, it's like admirals always suck in Star Trek. That's nothing new. And this guy is no different, really. And it's like he's the face of the Federation, in this movie. And it makes it seem like the Federation is siding with this plan almost. And, I don't like that feeling.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I think that's where we all kind of feel like, I feel like, there's got to be something wrong with the Federation. What's wrong with them? Why are they?
Right.
Yeah.
Why is this even happening?
Yeah, I was going to go with the Admiral as well, but for earlier in the movie when he was on board with wiping out Data.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That is, I feel like if this was an episode, Data would have been, there would have been a big fight about, Data not being like dismantled and sent to Starfleet for, to get checked out. Like that would have been its own, 45-minute episode or something. So
that was sketchy. He knew what was going on and probably why Data was acting up.
Yeah. I wanted to share, I got some thoughts from folks. Listener Jeff said, so the only note I could find from the last time I watched Insurrection is that Geordi's eyes make no damn sense. He said, which may not mean anything to you depending on how far you watched. So,
well, yeah, because if you think about it, he gets his regular eyes back. Did his ocular implants pop out? What happened to his? He just has normal eyes.
Yeah.
Was he sitting there and like, oh my god, my eyes hurt so bad?
Well, he does say that like his eyes hurt, and he went to crush her, and I think that they just took out it made it seem like he just had contact lenses in.
Right. It makes it seem like he has the what we've seen before is he has eye sockets with something white eyes.
Yeah.
But yeah, they put like I always thought they put robot eyes in his head.
Right.
And they just popped out, and then the new ones grew in. He's like, oh my god, it hurts so bad.
I got this from the Real Comic Heroes, our Facebook group, and Eric Slater said, I think it's a decent episode of TNG, stretched thin as a movie. Also, they should have made it a DS9 crossover.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Which, I would agree with that. I would have been cool to see, like, Worf was traveling with some DS9 crew members.
He was with Quark.
Yeah.
Somehow. I don't get that either. I think that
like Quark. What if Miles O'Brien was with him?
Oh yeah.
That would have been awesome.
For Patrick, Miles O'Brien used to be on The Next Generation and then went to DS9. He was another carryover character. They just kind of moved him over like a different character. And Yeah, they did. DS9's always been done dirty because if you look at it, remember none of them have ever showed up again
Right.
in later
Other,
Star
yeah.
Trek stuff. Whereas Catherine Janeway from Voyager becomes an admiral,
Yeah.
and we see her even in the next movie. She's the admiral
Okay.
in Nemesis when you guys see it. She gives Picard his marching orders
Nice.
because she's back. She's back.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And-
Okay.
So yeah, it's one of those type of things. So yeah, DS9 never got the acclaim it should have. I think
Yeah.
some people thought it was slow, but I thought it was one of the best.
I really enjoyed it when we went through it.
Narratively, one of the best. Yeah, when you rewatch it, you're like, this is so ahead of its time for 1994,
Yeah.
93, whatever it is. So it was really great TV. Oh well.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. Jonathan, I know you don't like rating movies, but
I like rating them, just no one likes my ratings.
that's true. How would you rate this?
On a
We-
10 scale.
We typically,
a
5, but you can do halves. So
Okay,
whatever.
we can do 5. Okay, it's a 5. Do you use 5s?
Yeah.
It's fucking scale system sucks. It is this is a 3
Okay.
out of 5. It's fine. It's right in the middle. Unfortunately, it's not great. It's not bad.
Yeah.
I would put this on the bottom of the list of, let's go with the list of 10 Star Trek movies, 9 Star Trek movies. No, 10. It would be 10. 10 because
Yeah.
10 ends with Nemesis. 10 Nemesis is the 10th.
Yeah.
So I would say that it is the worst is the Star Trek the motion picture, just because it drives me insane. But I know it's not the worst. It's actually not the worst. It just drives me the craziest.
It's slow. Yeah.
And then I would say Nemesis is really bad. This is probably the best of the worst.
Okay.
So it has moments, but it's not compelling.
Right on.
I mean, that's essentially where I'm at 3.
Okay.
I have a problem with my own future knowledge of how it looked. I don't know contextually how much of an upgrade it was visually from the show, because to me it looks like a sci-fi show right now.
Well, this movie especially looks like a TV.
Yeah. So that kind of threw me. I was expecting a bit better as far as like even some of the ship stuff kind of sucked to me. Like when were leaving one ship for another.
Okay.
It looked like it was just like a old like video game or something. It was just
like a cutscene. Yeah, like when the captain's yacht leaves.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of.
And you look at it, you kind of go, well, that looks like shit.
Yeah.
And it did look bad.
Yeah.
I think when the ships are just like big and when I thought they were just miniatures that were being photographed, I think they look amazing when they're like flying around the planet and Picard is, he's singing to Data. Like those ships look bad, And, and that whole thing when they're like flipping end over end and they're just spinning the camera. So, that's just bad effects. I also would give this a 3. For me, it's as I watched it, I thought I don't see what everyone doesn't really like about this, because I kept coming back to like it's just an episode, and that's okay for me. Like that's perfectly a good Star Trek movie should feel like a good episode of Star Trek, and I think this hit that box for me, I guess. But then as we were going through it, I had problems with the story. Like, as we discussed, the whole plot is just, the Federation wouldn't do this, a lot of it just didn't really add up. But it's middle of the road as far as my ranking would go.
It just wasn't very fun from a location standpoint either. It was like we're at the Olive Garden and on random ships here and there of questionable quality.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It didn't feel epic like a movie should feel. So
I kind of think like that's okay for these movies, because I think these movies are for the viewers of the show. Really, it's like this wouldn't be a good general audience movie. It's made for Star Trek fans, I think.
And that's what's bad about it. Whereas First Contact, I feel like
appeals more.
Even if you didn't know Star Trek, you're like, oh, these Borg seem like a bad thing. Oh, they're from a TV show. I don't need to know much about them. They're just mindless automatons. Cool.
Right.
Yeah, that's the designation. That was a good sci-fi movie, whereas this might be an okay Star Trek movie. Like, it's almost like its own little subgenre. Like,
Yeah.
There
this is
wasn't
a
enough
Star Trek movie. This isn't sci-fi or something.
Give some more bleep blurps and glams and like some real like scientific stuff. And I think this movie's more interesting. Instead, it's like a metaphysic bullshit.
Right. I kept waiting for something to happen with Artie has this like little salamander thing, like chipmunk salamander.
Oh
It gets shown like twice. And
Just,
I kept waiting for something to like it to become like some sort of big, monster or something like to happen with it, other than just like, oh, I lost my pet. Let me go back into this cave and find it. And then that just leads to a cave-in kind of thing. Like,
kid
I don't
sucks.
know. Yeah.
Remember, he was farting around with that little creature, and that's when his dad got taken by the isolinear
Yeah.
chips got shot him. So that little monster sucks.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the kid.
The kid.
yeah.
Little monster
Figured.
sucks.
Jonathan, what the hell do you got going on?
I got lots of stuff going on.
This
Go
will come
listen
out
to,
like mid-April, so I don't know where you'll be in the Swordboys calendar.
We'll probably be close to mid-April. Probably be finishing up with the Three Musketeers, which we've done in 6 parts. The Disney version did that. Go to swordboys.biz. That's our podcast called Swordboys. If you like sword movies, like Highlander, Beastmaster, Hawk the Slayer. No one knows that. Yeah, and
Red
Three
Sonja.
Musketeers, Red Sonja, Conan. We're gonna do all these. Like, we're doing a lot of different movies. We've also got a Patreon. Go find us at swordboys.biz. It's got all of our links. You can join us in their group and talk about stuff. And we have a Patreon. We just have done. We did Highlander 2, probably the most infuriating movie ever created. And we also next month in April we'll be releasing our Man in the Iron Mask, which to me is the sequel to the Disney Three Musketeers movie.
Absolutely.
So that'll be coming out. So yeah, go have a look at that. Swordboys.biz.
Yeah, it's a fun show.
So does He-Man Masters of the Universe fall into the Swordboys?
I guess you'll have to find that
repertoire
out next season when we do that.
Ooh, nice.
Yep.
I wasn't sure there. I didn't know if there was enough sword action in it for you.
Great,
so.
great thing to think about. Like, that's one of the things we were like, there has to be a sword fight, and like there being a sword that's like the sword.
Yeah.
Because we've done a couple sword movies where you're kind of like, there's really not that much swording in this.
That's kind of what I thought about like Beastmaster. It's like I can't remember a sword fight in Beastmaster now. There's
not a sword fight between a man with a sword and another man with a sword. It's a man with a sword fighting an axe.
Yeah.
And a bunch of goo monsters and butter witches and stuff like that. But it's not, there's not, he actually doesn't fight.
Yeah.
That
season was for nothing.
Yeah. Any one of the ones you grow up with, though,
yeah,
they'll probably get covered just out of nostalgia.
Yeah.
So we'll do those. And if they aren't worthy to be cut down into like chunks to watch them in, they'll be on our Patreon. Because that's where we start. Because we're like, I'm not doing Highlander 2 more than one episode. It's such a bad movie. We have to just get through it.
One and done.
So,
yeah.
But we'll do Conan the Barbarian.
Yes.
We'll do Conan the Destroyer, which I love. We'll do a bunch. I mean, we've got a huge list. Duelists, like some stuff that's actually like, some of the first really good sword movies. We'll go back in time. And we were on Travis's other show about Robin Hood.
Robin Hood, yeah.
Yeah, we've done some pre-stuff, so that'll all be coming out at some point. So,
hell yeah.
Cool.
Oh man, Patrick, we got a big one coming up.
We do.
We do. Yes, we do.
You refer to the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force. You believe it's this boy?
He can see things before they happen.
He can help you.
The Force is unusually strong with him.
He was meant to help.
Anakin! Tell him to take off!
Will I ever see you again? What does your heart tell you?
Are you sure about this? Trusting our fate to a boy we hardly know?
Anakin Skywalker, meet Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I sense much fear in you.
The boy is dangerous. They all sense it. Why can't you?
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
Good God. I'm hoping it's not as bad as I think I remember, because there's been so much hate that I don't know if I hate it more because of all the hate. And it
Get ready
really
for more comfy chairs.
Yeah.
There are lots of really
sweet.
big old lady chairs in that movie.
I just remember, obviously, Jar Jar.
Sure.
Kind of not looking forward to that, and then like a lot of politics.
Yeah. A lot of trade federation, embargoes and
then the speed racer section.
It kind of goes through the same thing that this Star Trek movie went through. It was like, what do people love? They love trade embargoes. Like, it's almost like you lost.
They love
the
council meetings.
What do we love? We love it when there are 600 people on a planet and they're not that interesting. That's not why we like Star Trek.
And then Natalie Portman robbing the cradle. That's the other part I remember.
Are you an angel? You get to talk about that part.
Oh,
hell yeah.
lovely. Okay, I have a feeling it's as bad as I think it is. Okay, we'll see. I'll go in optimistic.
Yeah,
good.
Going optimistic. I think over the years, it's now that we've seen the sequels, we're all like, you know what? It's not as bad as we could have been. So
yeah, that's what I'm wondering. So it'll be interesting.
I'll say right now, like I never hated anything from the prequels, and in fact, for me, they've gotten better and better over time. So I like this. I like Phantom Menace. I like them all. I'm an easy mark when it comes to Star Wars, but I get why people don't look back fondly on this movie. And for someone like you, Patrick, who I'm guessing hasn't seen the movie since the first time.
No, I probably watched it maybe in like the late 2000.
Okay.
2008, maybe around that time.
Okay.
Because there was like a marathon going on or something.
Right. Spike TV.
And I just, and I just happened to just get zoned into it for.
So it may be a rough watch for you, just because if you've not like, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah. I'm excited. Right. But yeah, that is what we will be back with. Anything else?
Always play at least once a day. What a stupid thing to take away from this movie.
Shut up, John Connor.
Yeah, shut up.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stretch my face and head off to bed here.
All right.
Hasta la vista, Baku.
Oh, jeez. Nice.
Stay safe out there, citizens.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Find the show on Facebook and Twitter at Real Comic Heroes. All music and audio are the property of their respective creators.